you give some vodka to an 8-year-old, there is a difference between not being afraid of technology and letting your kid be addicted by technology. Hello and welcome to the Digital Pragmatism podcast with Gosia.
Hello.
And Jerzy. We're gonna talk today about if being a digital minimalist parents, we will raise technologically backward children. But first, let's share with you some minimal news. What happened last week, Gosia? What reached you, even if you're off social media?
Nothing.
You don't interact with people?
I do, but we rather discuss
Parenting
topics. Yes.
Me neither. No news reached me. Or maybe some news reached me, but I don't remember today. So it was not important. What happened in our family? It's hot outside.
Yes, it's hot outside, and our daughter, for the first time, is awake.
Tried wake surfing. What's the difference between wake surfing and kite surfing?
I don't know.
I think kite surfing is with a kite, and wake surfing is if you replace a kite with a string. Well, she tried it, and it was at the same time fun for her and also scary and difficult. Which is cool because that's how life is. But I think she liked it. We will see whether she will want to perpetuate this sport or not. Let's attack today's topic, which is: will you raise backwards technologically children, Gosia, because you don't give them smartphones?
Sometimes when I'm talking to our parents, I have the impression that sometimes it's not easy to be the only parent that not gives a smartphone to a child, or that are trying to find some balance in this technology world.
But do you think really it's a matter of balance? I think that parents give smartphones to their children not because it's thought out. Not because it's intentional, but because it's the default. They look around, they are probably themselves addicted to their own devices, and so they give their children those devices first in order to have a little bit of peace at home, because, they want to send some emails, maybe they want to do something in the kitchen, and so they give the smartphone and say, voila, there is a game, you can use it. It's not an intentional thing. And when it's extrapolated later, when children have 8-9 years old, and this topic begins at school to be very important and everybody thinks about it, it's usually a perpetuation of something that happened a lot earlier. And if you are the only parent that says, no, I will not give a smartphone to our kid, and I think smartphones are bad, you're actually pointing the finger at their decision that was made a long time ago. Don't you think that it's rather this dynamic and not the fact that everybody gives smartphones because it's the norm? I would say in 10 years, it will not be the norm.
You are right, because now we can see the consequences of giving the access to technology, not limited access to technology to children. And we have more and more knowledge about it, what happened, why there is so much depression and self-harm among children. So I think that the parents will be more aware
of the consequences of their decision. I think that most parents will be very shocked. There will be a tipping point where suddenly it won't be, everybody uses smartphones, my kid should use a smartphone because if not, it will be just not prepared to live in the future. It will be, it's like alcohol and cigarettes. It will be this kind of tipping point. And alcohol and cigarettes are limited to 21-year-olds or to 18-year-olds in different parts of the world for a reason. And giving a smartphone to a kid will be also limited to 16, maybe 18, and I hope maybe 21. or the extractive stickiness mechanisms that are used by app manufacturers will be prohibited. You know, this kind that someone is showing you a movie that has 24 frames a second, and one frame, it's an advertisement. You will not realize it, but your subconscious will. When lawmakers saw that it has an influence on people, they were very fast at banning it, because you don't want to give to everybody the possibility to influence everybody. The same will be with the smartphones. There will be a tipping point. Right now, we are very, very early. There were no social media when the first iPhone came. You were just looking at an iPhone as a device for phone calls and photos and maybe SMS messages. You know that the first iPhone did not have notifications at all?
I didn't know.
And today, you have notifications everywhere. You have notifications in your smartphone, in your computer, desktop computer. You have notifications everywhere. And of course, they are delivered not in order to inform you, but in order to make you come back to the app. So I think it will be a matter of being a good parent in 10 years, because like today, if you give some vodka to an 8-year-old, you will be judged by everyone as a crazy parent. The same will be with smartphones. And I'm not talking about access to technology, because having access to technology can be made on a desktop computer. You can show your kid that you can use the internet to search for topics or to gain new information. You can show to your kid that you can use ChatGPT in order to make a research.
Or you can show some programs, graphic programs.
Yeah, applications.
Or some programs to make music.
Applications that are basically tools, like a hammer, like a screwdriver. And using technology like that, it's like, you know, when Prince was recording his first album, he had no access to an iPad in order to record 36 tracks on this iPad. He had to go to a studio, and so he had to have a promoter. He had to have a contract with a record label. There were a lot of gatekeepers between Prince and his recorded music. Today, the advancement of technology makes it that you can record pretty much any song with any device. With a desktop computer, with a tablet, you have even dedicated multi-track recorders you can use. And so this is tech that can be used as tools. Whereas smartphones are not this kind of tech, because the mechanisms that are inside the smartphone and inside the apps that you will install on the smartphone are not meant to solve your problem. The smartphone is not asking you a question, hey, you want to give this smartphone to a girl? What are the goals for this girl? Nobody gives a shit, basically. A hammer is not telling you, well, voila, you have to buy 20 additional tools, and the hammer is not waking you up in the middle of the night in order for you to check the notifications on the hammer.
And what about gaming? Because I had a conversation about it with one of parents, that gaming or online gaming, it's a way to show technology to a child, you know, maybe in the future to be a programmer.
I taught myself programming when first personal computers were available, the ZX Spectrum and Atari. I was basically interested in programming, and so I learned programming. I don't think that gaming online is an entry point to a job in tech. I think it's an entry point to an addiction, and I think it's an entry point to maybe a community of equally addicted people. And you can say, well, this kind of community is excellent. I want my kid to be part of a community, but you have to know that if your kid is part of an online community, it automatically means that your kid will not be a part of an offline community.
And if it is the same community, so the group of friends.
Okay, how many hours per day those people have to meet each other?
I don't know.
2?
So it's a question of a balance to be together in a physical world and online.
Online, your kid will just learn how to click with the mouse very rapidly. Whereas all the knowledge that your kid needs basically to exist without you, without a parent, on her own in the world, is in the world. The amount of things that the kid can learn inside of an online community is very, very limited. It's limited very often also to the kind of games that they play. If they took this interaction into the real world, they will use the real world in order to locate themselves. They will use their social skills in order to ask people. The amount of things that they will use will be 20 times larger than just what they use inside of an online community.
So being a digital minimalist, it doesn't mean that you are not familiar with technology. You just use this technology intentionally and as a tool.
And intentionally means that your day has only 24 hours like everybody else's. It's our job as parents to choose how much of those 24 hours they will spend on activities in the real world versus how much they will spend interacting with technology.
And to teach them the importance to make this choice.
Before 13, 14, Jonathan Haidt says 16 years old, kids are unable to decide for themselves. You have to decide for them.
So set the rules. You don't use your computer before
you go out and you play with your friends in the real world. Why? Because if you start by using your computer, you will have a very hard time to teach your kid, okay, now it's time to stop, and you go play.
So like we are saying, in the morning you do creative things or you play outside.
And we don't let our kids basically watch TV, or we don't have a TV, watch movies. And we don't let them turn on the computer, even if it's for creative purposes. Because we know that if our older daughter wants to draw, she can take a piece of paper and draw. She doesn't have to use a computer for that. Later in the day, after school, she can open her computer and play a simple game. She plays Mario. It's not a game that is exploiting FOMO, because with the online games, the problem is also that those games are always played. Even if you log out, other people play. You have the certainty that something is happening while you're not there. And I think also a very good point is to see how for the last 10 years we adult people are seeing smartphones. And so I was an early adopter. I was using Blackberries when they were all black and white, and I was one of the first persons amongst my friends to have an email on my smartphone. I thought that it was really adding to my productivity. It was really adding to me being able to contact people and to make things business-wise more rapidly. Today, I don't think like that about email, because it was weaponized against everybody by companies, by employers that just did not turn off the email servers after 6 p.m., but the emails basically flow 24/7. And so it escalated to a point that this technological advancement is not an advancement for me. What is your experience, Gosia?
So, well, I was fascinated at the beginning. Of course, I think like everybody was, and then I noticed that I'm addicted to...
But you noticed yourself, or it was me?
It was you at the beginning. But the way that I'm using smartphone, the access to social media or watching films on YouTube in the night, that it just took my attention,
Your sleep.
my sleep. I lost my focus. So one day you just took my smartphone and replaced it with a dumb phone.
Yeah, I pushed Punkt MP02 in the hands of Gosia.
So that experience showed me clearly that
you are not so strong against all the supercomputers that are making the feeds and the recommendations on YouTube, etc.
Exactly. I will just add something with how our daughter is making photos, because she has a
manual
camera.
Photo camera that she has to turn the lens in order to focus the lens, and she has an aperture ring. This is an all manual camera.
when I'm comparing some friends at her age that received smartphones, so what kind of photos they are taking? So they are taking selfies with, that face.
The chicken face.
Yes, the chicken face. And she, with her camera, is not doing this kind
because she has no flippy screens. She can't take a selfie.
So she's just taking photos of her friends, of some, things that are interesting for her. Her
guinea pigs, for example. Because it's something interesting. She is really in a role of a camera woman that is just documenting her life.
The tool that we are giving to a child, it has a meaning.
Of course, the platform is the message. Single usage devices are much, much better than multiple usage devices, because if you want to take photos, you basically want a photo camera. You don't need a telephone, a calendar, and games inside of your thing that will take photos. And I think also that if you don't give a smartphone to your kid, basically, it will automatically direct this kid to a community of kids that are not using smartphones. And it will be beneficial, because if you don't want your kid to use a smartphone, basically it would be better that the kid is not friends with people who use smartphones, don't you think? So it's an environment shaping technique, I would say.
So to summarize, we will not raise technologically backward children?
No, I don't think so, because, there is a difference between not being afraid of technology, and I think our kids are not afraid of technology. Our daughters are trying technological stuff. They are touching our cameras, our computers. They want to write emails. There is a difference between not being afraid of technology and letting your kid be addicted by technology. And I think by not giving kids access to online games, to smartphones in general, to applications that are sticky, you are just not giving them the opportunity to get addicted, to be exploited. And I also think that there is very slim margin of utility in tech. Basically, the messaging, it's something that brought value to people. The project management, calendaring tools also brought value to people. But the rest, the vast majority of tech is just actually used today to manipulate people and to force them to buy stuff they don't need. And it's not really positive. As parents, we have just to be very determined and to decide on which path we want to put our kids, basically. And so I think that it should be a path of beginning with the end in mind. So if you want to record a song using a computer, it's probably a good strategy. If you want to make a journal, maybe a paper notepad is fine. Thank you.
Thank you.